I'm in Slimbridge Wetland and Wildlife Centre in Gloucester, home to the world's largest collection of captive wildfowl. Slimbridge is also home to lots of migratory birds from all over the world.
A prime example of migratory birds that calls Slimbridge one of its homes is the avocet, a pied wading bird with a distinctly curved beak. These unique birds mostly winter in Africa or southern Asia and were extirpated or locally extinct in Great Britain by 1840. But thanks to a successful recolonisation as a result of East Anglia being closed and flooded during World War II, avocets made a tremendous recovery and can now be seen across the east and southwest of Great Britain, including a wild migratory population and a captive population at Slimbridge. This incredible conservation story led to the Royal Society for the Protection of Birds, or RSPB, to make the pied avocet their logo.
Slimbridge was historically an environmentally damaging peat mine. But in November of 1946, Sir Peter Scott established a reserve focusing on preserving and improving the populations of the species here.
Only 20% of the UK's peatland remains in a near-natural state due to their use for peat extraction. Peat was historically used as a fuel, but this led to the destruction of these precious habitats and the release of high levels of carbon due to the peat's effectiveness as a carbon sink. Slimbridge was the first of 9 reserves managed by the Wildfowl and Wetlands Trust across the UK. These include both coastal and inland sites and are representative of the different types of wetlands found in the UK. The variation in salt levels, alongside things like climate and disturbance, led to many distinct types of wetlands. Biodiversity can differ hugely even in just one area, with factors such as disturbance and submersion affecting the species that are present. Many species can only be found in these areas, as their specific needs and adaptations mean they would not survive elsewhere. Others depend on them for a specific behaviour, such as breeding, or as a space to recuperate along a migration route. One of the habitats found at Slimbridge is wet grasslands, essential for waders such as the aforementioned avocets. This shallow water is where they feed, scooping up aquatic insects, crustaceans and worms with their specially adapted beaks. Since its founding, Slimbridge has also taken on the captive rearing of endangered species. These can be brought to their species home range and released to supplement wild native populations around the world. Or in the case of the great crane, reintroduced back into England in 2010 after 400 years of absence. The conservation efforts of WWT go far beyond the boundaries of their reserves. Legislation has been put into place both in the UK and abroad to protect wetland sites after studies and surveys carried out by WWT proved their importance for the species that inhabit them. Research continues to be a focus for WWT as they look into restoring bigger, better and more connected wetlands by 2030. This is vital as unfortunately these habitats are threatened, having reduced by 35% since 1970. With their nesting, breeding and feeding grounds in jeopardy, 25% of wetland species face extinction. And it is not just the wildlife that will feel the effects. Wetlands play an important role in reducing the impacts of climate change, from their efficient carbon capture to acting as a buffer to floods and storms.
Wetlands are crucial for improving biodiversity across the world, making it even more important to protect them.